In this video, I'm back with yet another serious topic, and I'm talking about relationships in the UK or in the diaspora in general that often lead to domestic abuse. Now, what prompted me to make this video is a video clip that I saw on social media the other day. Now, this is not a new event from reading the comments. It happened a little while ago, but I was seeing this for the first time. And when I saw this clip, it really broke my heart. Now, I was going to show this clip in this video, but I decided not to out of respect for the person who was being abused. Now, I'm just going to describe the scenario in brief. Now, this was an event that happened in a restaurant. A man was being beaten by his wife. Yes, a grown man was actually being slapped by his wife in a restaurant, in a public place. When I saw this, it shocked me. And then it broke my heart. I felt for the man. And by the way, this was not a violation of privacy because it was the man who actually posted the video himself. He was reaching out asking for help because you could tell by reading his words that this man was in so much pain. So that's why I'm making this video. If you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter whether you're a man or woman. If you're on a dependent visa, you have rights. You don't have to take it just because you are on someone's visa. But first of all, let's talk about these relationships. Why it is that relationships are challenged in this way, especially when people move from Africa to come to live in the UK. And more so, I'm talking about those relationships that start in Zimbabwe or in Nigeria, Ghana, those relationships that start in Africa. And then people move to the UK, to the US, Canada. Those relationships I often find are the ones that are challenged the most. And one of the reasons that those relationships are challenged is because of the dynamics, the change in dynamics. Now, here's my observation. In Africa, the dynamics in the relationships tend to be different. They are different, in fact. There are clearly defined roles, at least in my experience. The roles are clearly defined back home. If you got married in my days, the roles were clear. If you were a wife in the home, your role was clearly defined. There were no gray areas. If you were the man in the home, your role was clearly defined. There were no gray areas. But then things change when the couple moves abroad. There is a considerable shift in those dynamics. And those dynamics change for different reasons. And I'm going to run a few scenarios so that you can see why these dynamics change when people move to the UK, US, Canada, Australia. There is a change. And by the way, this shift in the dynamics or this change for the worse, I'm talking for the worst, because there are times when those dynamics actually change for the better. Let's not forget that. There is a flip side to that. But in this video, I'm addressing a situation where those dynamics actually change for the worse. And this doesn't happen for everyone. But in most cases where things deteriorate to the point of resulting in domestic abuse, these are the scenarios that I've got. Now, the first scenario that might cause things to deteriorate in a relationship is to do with our work schedules, that work-life balance, just finding quality time to spend together as a family, as husband and wife. Because what often happens here in the UK is that if a couple has got kids, and because of the school runs, childcare, that couple cannot afford to have similar shift patterns. What that means is, more often than not, the husband will do nights or the wife will do nights while the husband does day shifts or vice versa. It's because they want to manage the school runs, childcare, and other obligations. So that makes things a little bit challenging when it comes to spending that quality time together, or even when you spend that time together, to have that energy to do activities together. Because when you find that time to spend at home, most of the time you just want to rest because you're tired. So then because of that hectic lifestyle, people are often tired. And sometimes what that means is people are not able to fulfill their roles within the family. And I'm not saying that wives never used to work in Africa. They used to work. But mind you, in Africa, you have uncles, you've got aunts, you've got neighbors who help you out with childcare. And mind you, kids in Africa can just go outside and play and leave you to get on with things. But here, it doesn't happen. And because of this hectic lifestyle, because of these work schedules, these long hours that we do here, people are tired. Maybe the husband hasn't enjoyed his wife's favorite meal in a long time. And maybe only the wife can cook that meal. Or maybe the wife works these long hours and she's got these hectic shift patterns. She hasn't found the time to prepare that special meal for the husband, and now the husband is frustrated. So I'm just giving scenarios and examples of what happens in real life, what happens in the household, how the friction often starts. So that's one scenario. The second scenario is the scenario that prompted this video. There are men, unfortunately, who are suffering in silence. Men also suffer domestic abuse. Now, this scenario is a scenario where something has led the wife to believe that now she's the one who wears the trousers within that home. Now, if you were socialized the way I was socialized back in Zimbabwe, and if you're a Christian like I am, then the dynamics are the husband is the head of the family. That's not to say the husband should abuse that position or should make all the decisions without consulting the wife. That's not what it means. I don't believe that's what it means. Yes, the husband is the leader in the home. He makes the decisions, he has the household, but at the end of the day, the wife has got the power to influence her husband. Anyway, I'm not here to preach. That's not what this video is about. It's about domestic abuse. So the scenario I was on about is a scenario where that wife, for some reason, for whatever reason, maybe something has happened over time and led that wife to believe that now she's in charge. She wears the trousers in that household. And now she is dominating the husband. She's telling the husband what to do. And in the UK, unfortunately, that situation often arises if the wife is the one with the visa, meaning that the husband is here as a dependent. The husband is on the wife's visa. That is when things go pear-shaped. And I have to be fair here and say sometimes something has happened to cause the wife to become that way, or something has happened to make the wife become abusive towards the husband. That's not to say it is okay. It is not okay. There is never a good excuse for domestic violence. I need to make that perfectly clear. There's never an excuse for that. That is unacceptable. But again, we are human beings. Things happen in life that change us over time. We cannot deny this. So in this scenario, then the wife thinks she's got all the power. The wife now has got the upper hand, so to speak. And now the scenario that I've described at the beginning of this video happens. It's a sad situation, but this happens. This is happening in this country. Because men often suffer in silence because they don't want people to know that they are being abused by their wives. And it's a man thing. Unfortunately, it's a man thing. Men would rather not say, but I think men should come forward and speak out whenever such things happen. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's never an excuse for abuse. Men can also be abused by their wives. We can all find ourselves in vulnerable situations where we are abused left, right, and center, and that is not right. So men, you should absolutely come forward. Talk to someone. If you don't want people who know you to know that you're being abused, then talk to the police. If you don't want to talk to the police and maybe you feel that the situation is still salvageable, then approach the pastor or speak to a friend, someone you can confide in, and see if you can resolve things. And again, this is the other problem we have in this country. We have no tetes, we've got no sekurus, because back home we have those people who keep us in check. When things go wrong in our marriages, in our relationships, I can always go to my tete, I can always go to my sekuru and present my situation. And then they sit us down and sort things out. That's how things work back home. But as I say, these things, we don't find them here. And if we do, that's not the majority of cases, because now we are scattered worldwide. We are now all over the place. And the family dynamics have gone haywire, I mean, to put it bluntly. But at the same time, having said that, I appreciate that now we're living in a different environment. Things work differently. So there's need as well for us to adjust and to adapt. There's need to move with the times even. But having said that, as I said, there's no excuse for domestic violence. We can still maintain our standards according to our culture, customs, and traditions. Being in a different environment is never an excuse for us to behave like that. So men get abused as well. But let's not forget that females also get abused. But in this video, I'm addressing male abuse because it is that video that prompted me to make this video. So what can you do if you find yourself in such a situation where you're being abused simply because someone thinks they've got the upper hand or if you're a dependent of someone. Well, the good news is the Home Office actually gave you a way out. There is a way out. So you can get out of that relationship first and foremost if you think that the situation is no longer salvageable or if your life is in danger. That is important for me to emphasize. You shouldn't stick around if your life is in danger, okay? You should absolutely go to the police because there's no excuse for domestic abuse, for violence or physical abuse. Report that person to the police. But as I said, the Home Office gave you a way out. You can actually apply for indefinite leave to remain on the grounds of domestic abuse or violence. So there is a way out. You don't have to stay in that relationship. You don't have to think that simply because you're a dependent, you are at their mercy. No, it doesn't work like that. You are a human being with rights. You don't deserve to be slapped around by someone simply because you are on their visa. But having said that, let us not forget the flip side of that, where the dependent is actually the one abusing the one with the visa. And now they are making up stories. Let's not forget that that also happens. And I think it's important as well to have evidence to document this situation when they occur. If you're being abused like that, then it's important for you to gather the evidence. As I said, let's not forget there's a flip side to that where someone is making up stories. So it's crucial, and I think the Home Office as well would want to see the evidence that that is actually occurring, because some people may try to take advantage of that situation or that visa simply because maybe they want to get out of their relationship for whatever reason. So these are the options. Now, other options, if you find yourself a victim of domestic violence or abuse, there are places where you can go to seek help. So I'm going to leave some links in the description, especially if you're a man, because I'm talking about men in this video mostly. So this is what I had for you in this video. Unfortunately, it's one of those subjects that are hard to talk about. But as I said, we need to confront these issues. That's the only way we can start having these important conversations and find out ways to deal with them, really. So I'll see you in the next video. Take care.